G'day, g'day. Welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive with Karen Swain. Always fabulous to be with you all. And I see the gorgeous Shirley is online from Canada. Woot, woot, she says. You're listening to Accentuate the Positive, Expanding and Awakening Consciousness on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105.3 FM syndicated radio all over the States, coming out of New Orleans, and on 8 different streaming platforms. And Neil Gaur from Portal to Ascension is with us again. Neil's been on the show many times. Welcome, welcome. Great to have you back, Neil.
Hey, Karen. Good to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
And Mr. Techo here he's also streaming on Portal to Ascension on YouTube, and I think Instagram. Yep. You've got it set up so we're all over the place today, which is fantastic. Fantastic. So for people that do not know about Neil, because I know that I've got a large audience on the radio network, let me just tell you a little bit about Neil. He is a philosopher, a historian, a researcher, a spoken word artist, and the founder of Portal to Ascension, which is a conscious event production company hosting a wide range of presenters on a variety of topics, such as the origins of humanity, the existence of extraterrestrial life, exposing hidden truths, tours, webinars, exploring spirituality and the nature of reality. And he's created, the stats, you've had like thousands of fully produced events and webinars with, 15, couple of thousand researchers and scientists and conscious explorers and teachers. Last year, we spoke at the beginning of this year on the show, and wow, this has been such a big year for you, Neil. You put on your biggest online event ever, which I was involved in. What was that called? Like you had 77...
The Awakening of Humanity.
Yeah, the Awakening of Humanity over 11 days, wasn't it? 11 days?
Yeah, 11 days, over 77 speakers in those 11 days. Yeah, it was beautiful.
And that was a by donation event. Anyone could listen, right?
Exactly. And it's on YouTube right now too, so people can watch it there.
Yeah, you're doing amazing work. You're doing amazing work. And I was just looking at your website before. You've got a Mexican tour coming up. You've been putting on events in the UK and Glastonbury. And anyway, we've been chatting about it. There's a few Kristen's here. She says, hello, my beautiful souls. Woot woot from Shirley. And obviously Neil says, welcome family. But we are going to talk about something different today. And we've already started chatting about it. So we're talking about, I was telling Neil that, when the simulation, like the matrix, the earth experience, whatever you want to call it, it's been given many names. And I was saying that my guides have showed me that this earth experience that we have is just one level, one place that we can play in as souls. And there's many different levels. It's not like we're physical and then we die and we go back to source and that's it. There's many different levels we can play on. And you've seen those levels during a regression or something, Neil?
Yeah, exactly. So I had it's like this topic is so big, my mind is trying to grasp where to even begin, But in the last 2 to 3 years, I've had 3 different regressions, and the first one took me 2 different lives, but I saw myself on a planet in the central star of Orion, and there was this civilization there with only one city on this entire planet. The planet was desolated, except it was barren desert, and there was dust clouds in the ground, but one amazing industrialized city. And I was sitting at a table around with all different types of extraterrestrial races. It was like a scene out of Star Trek. And we're sitting there drinking these like neon colored drinks. And I'm wearing this full on Iron Man suit. And then when I was doing the regression with Geraldine Orozco, when she asked, when we asked, why am I seeing this? Who am I? The answer was that I was an employee of the Portal Jump Rooms, which was this massive building that I saw in the center of the planet, in the center of the city, that was basically a building that we would go into, and we would use portals in there to jump to other realities. So that was the extent of that part of the regression. Lots of other things happened, but that was the theme for what occurred next. And then I had another regression a year later with Bridget Renee Holiday. And in this one, lo and behold, I'm visiting dragon realms and seeing dragons, reptilians, saw myself as 3 different reptilian races. I saw myself as a dragon as well, part of the red dragon tribe. And I did not even think about dragons except for the fact that they were demonized in the West. It wasn't a part of my reality, let alone was I attempting to even explore my reptilian lives. And I saw that. And in the end of that regression, when I asked, why am I seeing this? I was taken to the same planet in 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 Orion's belt that that was rotating around the central sun. And I've realized in that moment that the ancestry of the reptilians, or the ancestry of the dragons, the descendants of the dragons were the beings on this planet, and there was some type of connection there. So there was more things that transpired with that. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to go deeper onto that level. So about 3, 4 months ago, I had my other regression with Bridget Renee Holiday, specifically about Orion. And when we went and did this regression, boom, just like that, we're on that planet again, and so many different elements of what occurred in Orion, what the stargates we used from there, my different incarnations, 101 incarnations on this planet over a period of what on Earth years seemed like millions of years. And I kept coming back as the keeper of the portals. But what happened is, because what I want to do is, on bring Karen on in a second again here, I want to take this from the top. And first, I want to quantify the topic here. We're going to qualify, is this a simulation? Is this a hologram? So I'll give you some background first before we go deep into the bigger topic here. So then when I'm on this planet, I realized that about 101 lives there, and every life over these millions of years was coming down to protect the portals. And the one that I saw in my regression with Geraldine Orozco was the last life I had there, in which I was a part of a portal jump room when all the natural portals, the portals that had been on the planet for so long, had gone dormant. And what occurred was that there was an overpowering of these portals. Orion, this planet specifically, has the largest stargate in all of the galaxies, the largest portal. Orion's nebula is a nebula in which many stars are born and spread throughout our galaxy. It's the mother nebula. It's also called the cosmic egg to the beings in Orion. And it not only is the cosmic egg because many beings, many races come from it, many other beings come from other dimensions through it, but it also creates technology, actual physical technology that you can take and use to terraform other planets. And when it had created this planet was barren, but with this planet it also created this other cosmic egg. And by embedding this cosmic egg into the planet, we terraformed the whole planet. And then my race of people that I was connected with came and created the original stargate on the planet, the stargate for
Whoa.
us to go and transpire around the galaxy and interact with other beings.
Whoa. That's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
Okay. So portals, portals.
Yeah.
What are we using portals for? Are we using portals to move through time and space? Are we using portals to connect to other dimensions? Are we using portals to connect to different levels of consciousness? What are the portals used for? Are there many different types of portals?
Yeah, exactly. There are lots of different types of portals around the universe. This one specifically, right? So another moment, I'm doing plant medicine in Costa Rica, and then I go to the same planet, right? And I see myself as the guardian, and I get the nickname of the portal. The nickname of the portal I was guarding is called a portal to descension. Okay. And portal to ascension was the answer to the descension. So this specific portal was a descension portal, not in any nefarious way, because sometimes people believe that descending and devolving is actually negative, which isn't the case. It was an ability for higher dimensional entities and experiences to go through that portal and then descend to lower densities to have another incarnational experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've always said this. The matrix that we call the third dimension or the denser realities had to be created. Like someone had to create it. Just like we go to a theme park and there's the horror. We go and have I don't know. You get on a train and go through the horror, whatever it is, and you get scared out of your wits. Like somebody created that, right? So we have to create these experiences so that we can have this experience of feeling separate to source, feeling feeling, those negative emotions, because it's a construct. It has to be a construct. Someone designed it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't even know. So three regressions and literally it was seven plant medicine experiences over two
Mm-hmm.
weeks. All of that, right? And then just last week, I had another reading where I was talking about Orion, and then I found out in that reading that I was actually one of the people that created the portal. Because my question was, why did I come down there 101 times to guard this portal? Why was my incarnational experience on this planet every single time specifically a guardian of the portal? And do you know the movie Thor when there's that Stargate and then there's the rainbow bridge
Yeah.
that goes from
Yeah. Yeah.
Asgard to Earth?
Mhm. Uh-huh.
That's what
Uh-huh.
it was. It was basically, there was the guy there with the trident protecting the Stargate, and that was me. I was basically that person. And the reason that they needed to be a guardian, it wasn't so much for protection. It was it was more about maintenance, and there was only a few people that actually knew the codes in order to input them within the Stargates to send people to specific areas. So I was that individual. But when there was an overpowering of the Stargate and it got hijacked during the end of the DNA wars, the galactic wars in Orion, there was a hijacking because the ones that were quote unquote negative, which isn't even the case, that's the biggest story, basically were losing the war. They invaded that planet. They stole the cosmic egg from that planet, which was the life source energy. They overpowered the Stargate, and then they went through it. And when they went through it, guess where they ended up? On
Earth.
Earth. But they ended up on Earth 100 million years ago.
Uh-huh.
And they didn't go down to Earth. They stayed in between realities because they literally had the most powerful technology in the world, the cosmic egg technology on how to create life. So they stayed in between dimensions and were in an in between out of phase state, observing Earth and manipulating the DNA of what was occurring on Earth for millions of years in order to shift the trajectory of Earth so that they were able to eventually incarnate on this planet themselves. And the
Yeah.
first incarnation that they did was 100,000 years ago. That's when they first came back. After 100 million years, they came down 100,000 years ago. They finally got to that point.
I want to tell you what I was given while you were telling me all of that, especially
Yeah.
about being the guardian. My guides were giving me images of it, and they were showing me that you weren't alone. Like, it's not like it was like one man's job or one consciousness or one
Yes.
soul's job. And I said, yeah, but you've given him the image of him being there by himself. And they said, yeah, because we were speaking directly to him and his life, and we were showing him about him. But they were saying that there are other consciousnesses that you're a part of a team, basically, a part of a team,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
we were talking
So,
about before we went live, being a part of a team. And I said, does he know the people that were a part of that team? And he says, yeah. And they
I
said,
wish
yeah, he's met some of them. Yeah, he's met some of them.
on Earth. Yeah,
On
it's
Earth.
interesting because
Mm-hmm.
I saw myself many times, and that was one of my questions. Who else was with me? So the only
Yeah,
time I actually saw people was when the Stargate was being taken over. I saw myself with an army of other beings
right.
that were all
Yeah.
helping me protect it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, an army. Yeah, an army is a word. Yeah, many. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You weren't alone. Yeah, it
So
was really.
it was
Oh, I got
mind
shivers.
blowing. Like
Yeah,
the experience. Like if I'll send you my presentation, I did a whole 3 hour thing on this, and you can see like the amount of like how do I explain it? It took me forever to create this presentation. It was the hardest thing I ever did because it was literally the core essence of my original intent for Earth. And
right,
but the thing is, this now let's get into time and simulations a little bit. So even though I was living this life in this portal world, and then when the portal jump rooms existed, I was going through the portal jump rooms and visiting Earth. I was already living on Earth, having my own life here, because my soul, as you know, has
right,
multiple experiences. But
right,
then at one point, I needed to go through the portal and stay through the portal and go to Earth completely. However, I was already on Earth. So what actually happens in that situation is when I was living on Earth during all those incarnations, I did not have the traumas, beliefs, growth as a part of my Orion experience integrated into my earthly experience. When I went through the portal, I took all of my lessons, experiences, and everything and integrated with my soul here, which then became a whole other experience of my, my mission, my purpose on earth.
Yeah. Well, let's talk reptilians. So they've been given a
Yeah.
bad rap. I'm going to talk about this because I
Yes.
know that you've done this. This is Portal to Ascension's Instagram page that I'm showing you here, and there's a picture for people listening on radio. There's a picture of it's an AI generated picture of a reptilian and a rather cool looking sort of spacesuit. I like his spacesuit, shaking hands with a human, and there's a whole lot of people around them. So it looks like they're in some sort of committee. Yeah. So the reptilians sort of within this genre have been given a bad rap. They're the evil ones. They're the negative ones. Wow, the negative
Hmm.
ETs are the reptilians. But what do you want to say about them?
Well, so there are many different reptilian beings in this galaxy, and the dragon races, like as I was sharing earlier, the dragon beings are some of the oldest civilizations that have ever existed beyond
Right.
us. So when humans entered the Milky Way, there were already a lot of beings here before the human template came out of Lyra. There was a lot of reptilian, serpentine beings, which some people call them, and there were a lot of insectoid beings as well. So first of all, as many of us probably know, that you can't really polarize one set of beings as negative. Not only do we have reptilian DNA within us, and are we demonizing a part of ourselves, but also
Right.
there's been an incredible, vast experience of what it means to be a reptilian, just like it has been for humans. There's all types of humans and all types of human templates and all types of star systems, and that also exists with the reptilians. From my research, my regressions, and speaking to others, it seems like only maybe 5% of the reptilians actually have what we call the nefarious agenda. However, that nefarious agenda, if you really look at the root, see, that's the problem with humanity. We don't look at the root causes of what actually occurred. We just look at what's happening now, call them atrocities, and demonize these beings. If you
Right.
look at the root causes, and part of what happened with my awareness on Orion was, if you look at some of these beings, they were it's literally the story of hurt people. Or in this case,
Right.
hurt reptilians, hurt
Right. Yeah.
reptilians, hurt people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
so there was an intent that they had. There was something they thought they were going to gain from the experiences in Orion in order to assist their own soul group. And when they came through the portal, they kind of fell so deep into this world that they thought the only way to avoid prosecution, and what is basically referred to as depersonalization of their energy, because energy, it always exists, it can't be destroyed. However, energy can be personalized, personified. So you can extract the personality out of the energy and neutralize it. And that was literally the consequence of what happened to Ryan. So part of leaving was so that they would avoid that. Part of the constructs and the control mechanisms that happen on the planet, the connection with other reptilian beings, secret societies, and all that stuff, was a mechanism to protect themselves so that they would basically create buffer zones in between them and being able to be prosecuted. So now the reptilians that interfere with Earth, I would say that you can categorize them as two different types. There's those that interact on our dimensional plane at such a close level that they're able to interfere with free will, right? But then there's a universe out there of beings that are beyond that dimensional level, and then they go by the prime directive, which is the law of non-interference, and they don't interfere with free will. Plus, those beings that are on that prime directive, if you want to call it that, they also believe that everything happens for a reason. They believe all darkness is also a part of the light, that the sacred
Right.
dance is where it's supposed to be. So
Right.
even though they might see atrocities, it's not like they're not engaging because they don't violate free will. They're almost excited for us because we're getting to experience that darkness. So
Exactly.
the yeah,
Yeah.
so we've just had interactions with these beings so much, and I think we might have even spoken on a different um, podcast together once about how we can see the demonization of the snake and the serpent.
Right.
And even so much so that, like, one of the most feared animals in the world, or reptiles in
Yeah.
the world, I
Snakes.
guess, is a snake, right?
Yeah.
Even if you have no connection to it, it's just an inherent thing in our body. And what that is the ingrained essence of our fear of some sort of reptilian energy. Now, there's two
Right.
parts of that. There's one, that there were actually reptilian interactions. There were multiple ones. The ones that I'm talking about were a different dimensional Orion energy, and then there was even an Anunnaki connection that even though they were ancestors, they both operated independently. And only the ones from Orion were aware of the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki weren't at the dimensional awareness or higher enough to even be aware of the Orion beings, right?
Yeah.
So there's that connection, but the other connection is these beings have been hybridizing us with reptilians for ages. We
Right.
have a huge part of my presentation is a 30-minute thing on the reptilian brain, and I break down how the reptilian brain literally is a reptile. And we have it within us. So what's actually happening when we're fearful of serpents and snakes is we're fearful of our own darkness. That's the archetypal energy that has manifested from this physical occurrence within the universe, right? So as we start integrating and accepting our darkness, the reptilians, whether they're physical or whether it's the own inner darkness within us, is going to start becoming healed when we start confronting that. So that's kind of
Yeah.
a short synopsis of that.
The only way we can heal anything really, Neil, is to accept it as a part of us and love it. Like what you resist persists. So the more you push something away and judge it and criticize it, you're bad, you're evil, you're actually just talking about your own self that you're seeing outside of yourself, because the stimulation is just 360 degrees of mirrors. So when you start to accept your own darkness as a part of who you are in this simulation and this experience, then it heals. But
And you think we learned a lesson?
You think so? It takes a few years. What is this? I don't know how does he say his
Wanting
name?
to harm others is what is frightening.
No, that was not the question. No, here. What? No, sorry, I got. What is the darkness that you're saying is so applauded? Any of it? Yeah. Anyway, that's a question for you, Neil. Which darkness you're saying is so?
What do you mean applauded? Like praised?
Well, you were saying before that they were saying, when we experienced the darkness, they were applauding us and saying, yay, they're experiencing
Oh
the
yeah,
darkness.
yeah. So basically, okay, now let's get into some higher concepts. We spoke about some like galactic drama. All right. So one of the
Galactic
things that
drama.
I feel is that I came up with the term during my presentation: galactic drama, trauma, and karma. That's what we went through. So it's okay. So basically, let's metaphysics and quantum physics to me are this is a great segue to holographic universe and simulation theory. Metaphysics and quantum physics to me are the same thing. I have a graph that I put on a couple presentations where you can get almost every term in metaphysics, every term in quantum physics, and they're interchangeable with each other, except quantum physics is the masculine way of explaining things. It's very linear. In the masculine way of explaining things is no better or worse than the feminine way, but the masculine way is factual. This happened, and then this happened, and this happened. That's it. This dot connected to this dot, which connected to this dot. The metaphysical way is metaphorical quantum physics. It speaks about the quantum world in a way where it explains why the creative force, why this not dot hit this dot because this dot didn't like the other dot, and because it didn't like the other dot, it's did this with this other person, and then now everybody's upset. Like that's like oversimplifying it, but basically that is metaphysics and quantum physics is very same. So now let's talk about the original metaphysics. Metaphysics is the origin, the primordial energy of what created the universe. Is like speaking about the origin of everything, the inception of everything.
Yeah.
So in metaphysics you have oneness, right? In quantum
Right.
physics you have singularity, same
Right.
thing. Okay,
Right.
oneness became duality. Quantum physics, singularity became um, also duality. So oneness
Duality.
became
Yeah.
the two, singularity, duality. So when the oneness, the source, split from oneness into duality, it eventually became what we call, eventually, not immediately, light and dark. Okay, eventually became that. So as the oneness, let's just talk specifically in quantum physical terms. As the singularity split into duality, and the duality coalesced into personification, that personification eventually created light and dark. That light and dark eventually became good and evil, eventually, lower and lower in
Exactly.
densities. Did
Mm-hmm.
the singularity, God, source, oneness, love one part of itself more than the other? Did it
Right.
split from singularity to duality? And did it say, oh, I'm only going to like the light part of myself? Or did it love both of itself equally? And
Equally.
if it did love both of itself equally, why? And the answer could be, well, if somebody says what's the meaning of life, before I would say I don't know, but now I would say there's a couple of levels of that. One is we can create our own meaning to life. The other one is to experience itself infinitely, to experience itself other than what it is. So
Exactly.
if source, God, oneness became duality, which eventually became light and dark, those were experiences to experience itself other than what it is. And if source, singularity, oneness is closer to the light than it is to the dark, as in it sees itself more in the light, wouldn't it love the darkness a little bit more? Maybe, that's kind of a joke, but wouldn't it? Because isn't darkness more of the experience other than what it is, which is its original intent? Right? So
Yeah.
that's why when I say applaud, like when I say they praise it, these beings that are so connected to the original intent realize that darkness is the catalyst for growth. A good analogy,
Absolutely.
I was in meditation in Vipassana a few months ago, and I was closing my eyes, and Goenka, the person who facilitates the experience on TV, was saying, do not open your eyes because the light will distract you. Just keep your eyes closed. And I realized, and then that made me remember of when I was doing an ayahuasca journey once when the shaman said, don't follow the light when you see the lights in your experience. And I realized, wow, the light is a distraction. The growth is in the darkness, right? And I don't mean that the light is manipulating you, but in this world of amnesia where we forgot our original intent and connection to source, the best way is to go through the darkness. And another analogy is the light is at the end of the tunnel, but you need to go through the dark tunnel to get there. So that's a long answer to that question.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. The darkness. Well, it depends how we define darkness because we demonize it. We say
Yeah.
darkness, evil, awful, and we push against it and resist it. You were talking about Vipassana. When I was 26, I did Vipassana, and I was watching a war movie with a friend of mine the other day, and I remembered a past life that I saw. I was in England during the war. I think it was probably the Second World War, and I was walking through the rubble after they had bombed London, and I was looking for a child through the rubble that I think was probably blown up in the bomb blast. Yeah, but we give all those experiences, those dark that we call
Yes.
dark experiences to ourselves. Like, what did I learn from that? And how is that impacting my life now? And, I have a friend that I did a regression on, and she was killed in, one of the death camps during the Second World War. And she came back in as Jewish, and she's like, created community in Sydney and making people remember their divinity and dance and express freedom. And maybe it was because of that life, being murdered in a death camp, that she is so, that she's doing what she's doing now. Like, it's all dovetailing. It's all
Yeah.
working together, right, Neil? Yeah.
Exactly. It's a sacred dance. So,
Sacred
yeah, and
dance.
that's why I specifically say darkness and I don't say evil and bad because it became polarized. I don't know what dimension it became polarized in. There's duality and there's polarity, and then polarity was imposed upon duality. And then it started becoming like even, when we demonize things. So darkness can be a simple challenge in your life, or it could even be your Saturn's return. It could also be a reflection on what you're going to do with your life, how you're going to change it. It could even be a trauma that you went through, and then the healing process that you go through that brings up all these uncomfortable emotions for you to deal with. Or
Right.
it could be the atrocities that are happening in the world on a global level, the secret
Right.
things that are coming to the surface right now. So,
Mm-hmm.
but if once we start seeing that, if source, right? I'm curious if anybody wants to explain out there. What do you think? Why do you think source split to experience itself? Was there an agenda? Is there an eventual goal? Or is it an endless like cycle of us experiencing something other? And I would say that maybe because of the earth experience, that really makes me feel that the experiment is to experience. And that's why, and the reason why is, I feel like a lot of people on Earth have been many amazing things in the universe. We've achieved great heights. And
Yeah.
Earth is not a test, but it's a reward for many of
Yeah.
us, believe it or not. And
Yeah.
it's just imagine this, right? You're in the universe, you've done all types of stuff, you know it all, you've remembered it all, you connected to the source, the highest dimension, or you even just exist in a dimension where you even know source and you know all your lives. And then the question is, what else can we experience when we already know everything? Well, why don't we create a planet in the lowest of densities, wipe our brains clean and of all our memories, and see if we could still remember the light? You know what I
Isn't
mean?
it that question? That's of my pay grade. Why did source split into duality? It's an existential
Yeah,
question
yeah.
above my pay grade.
Why? What's the meaning of life?
Kickboxer.
That's the
What's the
question.
meaning of life? Kickboxer? I don't know what's going
Hey,
on.
I want to create a podcast show one day. Just what's the meaning of life, and just have people on it talking about it. Just like every different episode.
Yeah, I often think about, we talk about the density of Earth, like we're kindergarten, we're children as far as consciousness in the cosmos, because there are many other planets with higher consciousness, and they're much higher than us, and the angels are higher than us, and the ascended masters, they're all better than us and higher than us. Like that is the narrative. But actually, in order to elect to do the memory wipe thing, the to swim in the river of oblivion, to go through the veil of forgetfulness, whatever you want to call it, you have to be a pretty brave, enlightened sort of soul to elect to do that. So, in fact, Earth isn't kindergarten. It looks like Earth is like university of experiences, because we're wiping our remembrance of our connection to source, and then we're experiencing a life with lack of memory, or a small amounts of memory, and then we're awakening and remembering and remembering and remembering and remembering. And yeah, that ain't easy to do. That is not easy to do. What time is it? I have to do a station break. We only have Neil for another half an hour because he has to get on a plane. So we're going to talk very quickly, and then you've got me for the last half an hour. But yeah, I just want to remind people that you're listening to Accentuate the Positive with Karen Swain, Awakening and Expanding Consciousness, on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 107.7 and 105.3 FM syndicated radio. And Neil Gaur is our guest from Portal to Ascension. What does Kay say here? Figure it out, lol, good luck. Figure it out, the endless cycle. Yeah, we're here to experience. Lots of fabulous people online. Let me go back in. So we've talked about the reptilians, and they're not sort of the dark, and if they are dark, that darkness was created so that we can experience that, to have that experience of forgetting who we are as light and love and infinite creative potential. And what do you want to say, Neil, about people? Because there's a lot of them out there that talk about the royal family, they're really reptilians, and the Hollywood people are reptilians. Like there's all this stuff out there talking about, we're controlled by the reptilian, and the politicians and the cabal are reptilian. Like, what do you want to say about all that stuff?
So there's literally a segment on my presentation specifically about when the infiltration occurred. So, and I'm just gonna give you like the timeline. Is like there's so much information and layers that is really challenging even for me who loves to speak about this to really break it down. So I'm just gonna give you like a summary. These beings go through the Orion portal. They come around 100 million years ago. They do not come to Earth. And I'm going to show you an image right now. Actually, this is the best way of what it looked like, where they were at, and how they were observing Earth. Then I can go from there, explain it much better than I could just talk about it. Let me just pull it up really quick. So they're basically in between worlds. Here we go. All right, Karen, if you can pull this up for me in a second.
So when you say they're in between worlds, they're consciousness. So they're not physically incarnated on Earth as reptiles. No. But their consciousness is a part of the operating system of Earth. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So yes, in essence. So can you see my screen?
Yeah. Looks good.
All right. So here is Meet the Beings, right? This is what they look like. They look like raptors. They even had an influence on the actual dinosaurs. So this is them going through the portal. Like this is kind of like Dante's Inferno for reptilians. And then they literally have this cosmic egg technology that came from the nebula, actual physical technology that was embedded in this planet. And this technology is so powerful, you are literally the Time Lord. They stopped. This right here is not a spaceship. This is a dimensional experience that they were in, observing Earth 100 million years ago. But the time, as in that reality, everything was happening simultaneously. They were like, Earth was like puppets on a string to what they were doing. And what they were creating was, they were messing with dinosaur DNA, doing different things with the species on Earth to move Earth's trajectory in order to be able to eventually incarnate on Earth. But the level of consciousness on Earth at that time was at a level that they could only incarnate into an animalistic experience themselves. So
And
they
that was
had
the
to wait for
dinosaurs.
Earth. Yeah, but they didn't actually put their souls in the dinosaurs. They manipulated the DNA of them, but they didn't come down. They were manipulating DNA, playing the
Uh-huh.
long game, so that eventually, when they knew, because they saw Earth over this 100 million years, they knew that eventually Earth was going to be at a level where it could sustain sentient awareness on a level that they have. So they did
Okay.
not come down. And this is them now. Here's like their dimensional experience, playing, messing with the DNA. There's Earth, them observing everything there, right? And they were basically the watchers. They're observing it. But over 100 million years, guys, if you're into ET awareness at all, you'll be aware that the Lyrians came down to Earth, the Syrians came down to the Earth, the Pleiadians came down to Earth 300,000 years ago, the Anunnaki came down to Earth. These guys were here the whole time watching it all unfold. They were
Absolutely.
watching
The
the beings
watchers.
come, they were seeing it. The beings that would come to Earth weren't aware of these watchers because of their dimensional experience was different, but these guys were watching them. But the beings that came to Earth knew that someone had manipulated the DNA and they could see reptilian traces. They just didn't know who, they couldn't connect it. They think they watched it as well. But so think of those other beings that came as puppet masters, and think of these beings as the masters of the puppet masters, right?
Yeah.
Almost like when you're
Yeah.
at a restaurant and you're watching someone see someone, and then you're watching someone, they're watching, somebody's watching somebody, but you're watching somebody.
Yeah.
That's literally
Exactly.
what was happening, right?
Yeah.
So then finally, around 50,000 to 75,000 years ago, Earth was at the level that they could come in, because what they were trying to do was they didn't want to forget. They didn't want to forget. They knew that when they came down to Earth, that they were going to forget their who they were, their intentions, why they're there in the first place. So they waited in order to master the technology so they would keep remembrance. Before this regression, I thought that when these beings came down to Earth, they came into the veil of forgetfulness. There were others that did, but these specific soul groups, they didn't. And so when they started to incarnate, they could only, and this is how it works with reptilians and dragons, they could only incarnate into bloodlines with similar, not only agendas I wrote here, but similar ancestry. So
Hmm.
they couldn't even come down to Earth because the people that had their own ancestry hadn't even visited Earth yet to put their DNA in the people. When the Anunnaki came, other beings came, more of their own ancestry, their original reptilian DNA, was on Earth. So when they incarnate, they could only incarnate into bloodlines that had, their own ancestry. So they came in intentionally, but many of these beings retained the memories on some level of awareness. And I'm getting to your question in a second. They could easily incarnate into anyone with specific amount of similar genetics to the reptilian bloodline that they had, such as the Anunnaki people, the sons of God, the Ajiji, the fallen angels, all of those beings that basically had some of their DNA in there, and they wanted to come into elite bloodlines to be able to control. There were soul groups that incarnated into elite and royal bloodlines. So this is when it happened. 30 around, as I was saying, 50,000 to 75,000 years ago, they began going into elite bloodlines. Then they continued to do so for quite some time, up until even the last 1,000 years. And as they were coming into these bloodlines, they weren't shape-shifting ETs, even though that could exist. I haven't explored that in my own experiences yet. There were souls incarnating in human bodies that had more genetics that were similar to reptilian DNA. And when they would come in, they would retain full remembrance. And now,
Ah,
I'm going to close this here. And now we have if you've ever tracked in the past, a lot of times where there were like brothers that all of a sudden they started warring against each other, or there was families that were connected and ruling for thousands of years, and then all of a sudden there was a new child, and then that child took over the other child and wiped them all out. The Mahabharata is a good example where there's two brothers, bloodlines going on there. The Trojan War, there was a lot of family on either side, and including in the last 1,000 years in Europe, there's a lot of that. The Habsburgs in Europe, that was one of the biggest families that owned, that almost at one point ruled the whole of Europe. These
Yeah,
beings
yeah.
incarnated had no tie to the families, and they took out the families and input their own beings in charge.
Ooh, this is so fascinating. You know what they're showing me as I'm listening to you?
Mhm.
They're showing me, they're telling me that this is why the royal bloodlines, they were so adamant about only marrying the royal bloodline to keep that DNA intact, to not dilute the DNA, is what they're saying.
Yeah,
But they
exactly,
said that
because they
over
couldn't
time,
incarnate. If it diluted,
right,
they would not
if
be
it
able to come
diluted,
into
they could,
offspring.
exactly, exactly. But they're saying that over time, that DNA has been diluted. Like just in our era, with people marrying commoners, like the royal families have done. They married the commoners. They're diluting the DNA, and so that sort of control drama is diluting as well. It's diluting, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's really interesting. That's really
Well,
fascinating.
see, the
Mm.
controllers, see, the eventual goal was that they knew what the eventual goal was, and I gotta pull this up here to see if I can see it. I want to show you
Desley
this.
says RH negative. Does that have anything to do with it? RH negative?
So I never asked that question in my
No.
regression. So
Hmm.
I know a lot of things about RH negative, but since I haven't experienced it, I'm not going to speculate on it because I don't
I'm
know.
going to
Because
say
there's
to
other
Desley,
reptilians
ask your
being.
guides, Desley. I know she can. You're going.
So look, here's like them manipulating DNA with a cosmic egg
Well,
technology,
hang on, hang on. Do
etheric
you want me to
DNA.
bring this back on stage?
Yeah,
Hang on.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So when the Lyrans came down, the Lyrans were able to manipulate DNA etherically and physically. Okay, when the Syrians and the Pleiadians came down, they were manipulating DNA physically. When the Anunnaki came down, they were manipulating DNA physically. When these beings came down, they were manipulating all of Earth's species DNA etherically. And
Mm-hmm.
the the you know how they say there's 12 strands of DNA? I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how many strands there are. There could be more. I've only heard that through metaphysical people. I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
just parrot what people have said. But what I saw in this is that DNA is actually a physical DNA. But you know how we can only see a percentage of a percent of the light spectrum?
Yeah.
The DNA operates at a different light spectrum. So that whole DNA is there, but we're not able to perceive it because it operates at a different light spectrum. So what they would do is they would encode the strands that operated at the light spectrum that they could perceive. And then our DNA works like basically a symphony. The When you shift the ones in the other light spectrum, it then like a harp being played goes throughout the whole DNA, eventually ending up into the physical experience. And that's how I got how they were actually shifting and manipulating our DNA.
Oh, I love these images, Neil. So for people on radio, you'll have to come to the YouTube and watch it. We're on the United Public Radio Network, which is also on YouTube, and Accentuate the Positive, Karen Swain, Blissful Beings, which are on YouTube, Portal to Ascension on YouTube. We're also streaming on Rumble and Odyssey. I think Odyssey's having a few problems today. Twitch, we're on Twitch. I'm loving this, but you know what I'm also hearing? I'm hearing that this story of the manipulation and the bloodline, it was like the past, and now we're moving into that portal to ascension, where
Yes,
everyone is having that same reality of the DNA coming online and the awakening and the remembering being part of the human experience. So it's not just the elite who remember, but everyone has that opportunity. So it's
exactly,
happening
exactly.
globally, so that this manipulation and power games and control can't exist. Because when you remember you're an extension of source and that you're powerful and your thoughts create your reality, you stop worrying about what other people are doing, right?
Right,
They
right.
can't
It,
control me because I'm the creator of my reality. Yeah.
exactly. Becoming our own sovereignty. And I'm just going to share this last slide here. Then I'll take it off, and we can just speak about this to close out with my time here. Um, because now it's getting to solutions, right? Like I spoke about a lot of crazy things happening on the planet and what occurred and the hijacking and the murders and the atrocities. Now, the question that I had to ask in the end, because I got many times in my regression, is I'm here to reconcile the light with the dark. That's part of
Uh-huh.
the mission of Portal to Ascension. So
Right.
the question is, was it really an infiltration? Did they really infiltrate Earth 100 million years ago? And I'm just going to read from these two slides. So these beings played their role exactly how they're supposed to, even without being aware of it. The infiltration was another actor on the stage. What they did was because the reason why they came down, not because they were hateful and hated humanity and wanted to kill, they were in fear. They did not want to lose their personalities, the individualization. Then when they
Okay.
created parts of human consciousness, they created our amygdala, they created our reptilian brain. They were responsible greatly for those, right?
Right. Right.
They did not realize that their own traumas that they brought down was going to be embedded into the humans. The fear and that they had is literally ingrained in our survival instincts, which is our reptilian brain, and our
Right.
amygdala, which is the fight or flight, right? It's quite a
Right.
physical experience that they gave us. They wanted to protect themselves and their people. That protection of ourselves and that fear of the other comes from them. The darkness was wounded and scared, and the darkness that they brought with them was wounded and scared and created so many systems and institutions and wars and pain just to protect their soul group because they were afraid that they were no longer going to exist. The infiltration made the cycle be. This is the interesting part. The Earth experience before them wasn't con- conducive to the catalyst for growth that it is now. We wouldn't
Right.
have had the ability for so many souls to gain the utmost awareness if it wasn't for all of this stuff. The
Exactly.
infiltration made the cycle become exactly how it should be so they can
Hmm.
give people the growth of what they need and learn the lessons and eventually break free from the cycle. So this last one,
Well, let
compassion.
me ask
Go
you
ahead,
this
Karen.
question just before you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so if the density and the amount of density and the illusion of separation has been so beneficial to the evolution as souls, then why ascend out of it to a more easier experience? Like, why do that?
Yeah, exactly. And that's a good question to that I even asked myself is that when do we like I used to hear even when we go back to a utopian experience, do we just want to come back down to this challenging experience afterwards because we have full awareness that that was actually fun for us? Or
Exactly.
are we creating something new? We're creating I feel what's happening is we're creating a new experience on Earth. We're figuring out how to exist within a dualistic expression but still live in oneness. So it's also a
Exactly.
balance between duality and oneness at the same time. I used to think that we're going back to something that's already been there before, but I would have to. That's a whole other section on here. Is just like what is being created now
What
from
is it
this.
here?
And
Well, the level of
what-
density has been so immense that moving out of it, we're only moving out a portion of it. Like we're not creating utopia on Earth. We're creating another level of experience with different consciousness. But it's not utopia. We've still got challenges, and we've still got forgetfulness,
right,
and like there's a lot to remember. But so
right,
it's
right.
just another level up. It's not the utopian, like we're not creating heaven on earth, as a lot of people say, but we are creating the next
It's another
the
level
next
up, yeah.
a level
So
another
just
level.
because you
Yeah.
mentioned that, so I decided let's jump to this slide. This was the
Oh,
ending, the
yeah.
expression that is new.
Hmm.
So to speak on that question, we did not know before this experience on Earth that we could have something new while remembering. We thought the only way to experience something new is to wipe our brains clean, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And it's not about experiencing darkness, it's about experiencing something other than what we've experienced. That is it.
Exactly.
So it doesn't have to be us coming down here. So we came here, had our memories wiped so we could feel different. And we could basically, it's like clocking in experiences. And because of the darkness's involvement and because of these beings and how they interacted with us and the way the system was created, we're now able to create something new. We're now able to create a new world, right? And I don't mean there's a new planet. I mean something that has not been experienced, but it's a world of remembrance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. That makes me cry. Wow. This has been awesome. We've got 10 minutes to go before you've got to, because as I said, Neil's got to go catch a. I only booked him in about 6 months ago, but he's still got to go catch a flight. And then
Yep.
you've got me for
I
half
know.
an hour.
Sorry.
We'll do some Q&A for the last half an hour. But yeah, this is fantastic, Neil. I've loved this conversation. Hacking the simulation, I called this, but hacking the simulation is knowing that all of it was created for us, and we're not victims to anything, and we can enjoy the ride, and know that it's
Yeah.
for the evolution of our soul, and our soul is elected to be here. And yeah, that's hacking the simulation, rather than feeling
Exactly.
like we're imprisoned in an imprisoned. Some people call it the prison planet. We're not imprisoned. We're free. We're free, unified, conscious beings that can create anything we want, even under the challenges. What's Susan saying here? I love Susan. Hi, Susan. Healing allows us to walk in the world while feeling inner peace. It does. Thank you for that perspective,
Yeah.
Neil. Yes. Melissa says, yeah, pretty awesome, Melissa, huh? Yeah. So
I'll let
for our
you.
last 5 minutes, what do you want to tell us?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's get into like compassion for the darkness, because honestly, like that's been my whole theme for like a year. Is just like
Yeah.
really hurt people. And today I was
Yeah.
speaking to someone here who's the head of a nonprofit that helps juvenile children and does kid in Oakland does programs for juvenile kids that have been a part of the system, been in juvenile, or just done things that are technically considered criminal. And she was talking about how much fun they have, how much they love it, and how much support they give. And we're just speaking about like the traumas that lead to this kind of experience. And how when we're children we do certain things, at a certain point we say, okay, you're a kid, you don't know better. And then traumas occur to us, and traumas stunt our emotional growth, right? And I'm speaking from experience on a hardcore level, that we get emotionally stunted. And then we become older, we become teenagers, we become adults, but that part of ourself is still stunted at that age, whether it's 5. For me it was from age 3 to 7 years old, and then other times. And you get stunted at the age, and you still act out those traumas because you haven't figured out a way to heal it. And because you haven't filled now you're a grown man, right? And you're doing these atrocities, or committing these crimes based on these traumas that as a kid you would just be smacked on the wrist. But now you're, maybe it's not even crimes, maybe you just have your a really bad relationship with your wife and you're treating them so badly, but it's all based on these traumas that were never healed, and you're being emotionally stunted and not having the the example on how to be a better person, right? And
Mhm.
what I'm realizing from exploring the darkness so much so, guys, that I'm creating a 6-month course called the Shadow Workers course. Shadow work, like hardcore shadow workers. Not It's not just by the light. And when we look at these beings and we start seeing all the crazy, well, we see the world, all the crazy things that have happened, what Jeffrey Epstein did, what P Diddy's done,
Yeah.
and what our politicians are doing, what these celebrities are doing. We start realizing that, wait a second, what all these people that held in such high regard, and the system that was back behind it all and was created, is not really what it is. And we start getting very angry at these people. But if you take a moment to look at the root cause of the disharmony and what happened, and you start exploring it all, you see that these were all just children as well that got hurt.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how do we still heal, and how do we still hold people accountable, but also know the root of what happened to these individuals, right?
Yeah.
And in my Vipassana experience, it's another thing I saw. There's a phrase that people use, that the light is so powerful that when you switch on a light switch, the darkness runs away, right? Just
Mhm.
one speck of light, darkness runs away. I had to rephrase that. It's not the fact. When you switch on the light switch, the darkness retreats to the corner like a little child, hiding and protecting himself, scared of the light, because the darkness has been fragmented for so long that it no longer sees itself in the light.
Mm.
And that's the whole thing. Why do, when there's dark in things happening, when people are dealing with spirits, why are we returning them to the light? We're not
Mm.
returning them to the light, creating a portal. We're allowing them to see that that's what they are eventually, originally,
Yeah.
right? And so I would say the lesson of humanity is, as we see a lot of things coming out, and a lot of these things are coming out because they were necessary evils, for lack of a better term. And now when they come out, it's like, how do we look at these things and still have compassion for those that have committed this? And Buddha said it perfectly himself. Buddha said, when you get to a place of awakening and enlightenment, right? And enlightenment in the place of liberating yourself from suffering, you have more compassion for those that are the perpetuators than those that are the victims.
Yeah,
How can
absolutely.
you get to that point?
Yeah.
And then how could you live in such a dualistic experience that you still hold them accountable for what they've done, but also know and hold compassion? Because if we start not seeing that, if we start seeing the darkness as others, we're just going to keep perpetuating the system. The status quo will continue to go
Yeah,
on forever. So
exactly.
right now,
Yeah.
yeah, we
When
need to integrate with that darkness.
when we were talking about, creating utopia on earth, and then we talked about we're just creating the next level, what my guides showed me too is that the experience of shifting from one paradigm to another is the experience we've all come for. It's like that existential change, the fact that the light is revealing the covert, the hidden darkness, the hidden control dramas. And then how do we as conscious beings relate to that? How do we bump up against that revelation, the revealing of, there's so much being revealed. There's the covert darkness and control being revealed across generations. And then there's the unity and the awareness of who we are as multidimensional, powerful beings and psychic beings. And like, there's just so much being revealed. And how do we as a people, or children acting like we know it all, as Kay says, how do we as a soul having a physical incarnation, how do we bump up, how do we deal with it? So what a lot of people are doing in humanity is that as the darkness is being revealed, the control dramas like the pedophiles and the control and all that sort of stuff, they just go into judgment and make it, like these terrible people, let's punish them, punish them, rather than seeing finding compassion within ourselves.
Well, that's
Like
why
I
it
said
keeps
before.
happening. That's
Yeah.
why it keeps happening, because we just see someone, they hide it, they put it under, they throw it under the rug, they don't expose what the truth is behind it, or people just demonize this one person and then stop listening to their music, which is fine. You can do that as well. But
Right.
then no one's looking at the root of what is causing this, in the system. And I feel that's where we're stepping to. And plus, as you know, we're moving into the age of sovereignty, right? And the age of the Kali Yuga was the age of hierarchy, authority, delusion. The age of the Dwapara Yuga, the next age, is the age of sovereignty and energy. Now, in the age of sovereignty, there's no stardom, there's no celebrities, there's no
Right.
hierarchy. And
Yeah.
so what's happening, okay, forget the darkness and atrocities. What's happening is a deliberate crumbling of the hierarchical system and celebrity
Yes.
stardom. And
Yes.
so these things are going to be exposed because we can't have a Hollywood and these people that are so detached from reality, you know. Great example is in Bollywood in India. Bollywood, even though they're billion dollar industry, they've been suffering, and because the people of India are not happy in general with Bollywood. The reason why
Ah,
is because they are disconnected from reality. That's what they're saying. They just not. They
yeah.
just have a whole different understanding of reality. They're not. They're not. They don't know what's going on the human struggle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So those
Absolutely.
systems are crumbling deliberately, and as they crumble, guys, everything that we've held as those that are above us, those that we look up to, is going to crumble. Reason why?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's time for us to look up to ourselves.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, darling one, I know you've got to go. It's on the hour now. Thank you so much for coming on. It's always
Thank you,
such a
Karen.
joy. I just love
Yeah,
having you on the show. Such
it's
a
just fun.
such a great
I
conversation.
didn't know like where, because I said yesterday I want to do this, but I was a little bit nervous because I've been at a retreat for 3 weeks, haven't been doing any events, anything, and I just didn't know what we were going to speak about. But I feel like everything came out beautifully and perfectly, and I really enjoyed spending time with you and going deep here.
Absolutely. Neil was telling me before we went live what he's got in store for 2025 and 2026, and some of the events he's going to put on in 2026. I book me and I'm coming to Greece and I'm coming
All
to
right,
Sedona 2026. I want to be a speaker at
do
one
it.
of you. So no live events next year, all online. Wants to have a rest from live events, which I can understand because I put on live events. I know how hard it is to put on live events. But 2026, yeah, I'm being there. Susan says thank you.
Right.
Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. But I'm going to stay online
Thank you,
because I'm
everyone.
going to be with you for another half an hour. Big love to you. Enjoy
Thank you, Karen.
Mexican cruise, which I was on the cruise, and we'll speak again soon.
Okay, speak later. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Fabulous, beautiful conversation. Thank you both. Yeah, Melissa, thanks for tuning in. Well, we've still got half an hour. I want to speak to you guys. I want to speak to you online and get your feedback on all of this. How do you deal with the darkness? Like I'm watching, I've got to say, I'm so much more interested in American politics than I am Australian politics because it's just so damn entertaining. But, watching the vilification of both sides, pitting people against each other. I think I saw a photograph. Apparently the Notre Dame cathedral was reopened in Paris. And I saw a picture of Trump sitting next to Jill Biden having a nice conversation. It's all an act. Everybody's acting. Everybody's throwing insults at the other person. But when push comes to shove, they're sitting next to each other in a church having a church opening. It's hilarious. Like, how do you what would I call this? Hacking the simulation. How do you hack the simulation and live outside of the games that we're playing here on Earth and live in peace and love? I want to know from you. Just pop it in the chat there. Sedona, almost my backyard. Come, Kristen says. I know, right? I've been talking about going to Sedona. And I was just saying to Neil, he's putting on an event in Sedona, 2026. So it's over a year away. I think it's October, so it's nearly 2 years away. Going to Sedona for years, and when Neil was telling me what he had in store for 2026, he says, "Which one do you want to come to?" And I said, "I want to go to Sedona. I've never been to Sedona." What are you saying here, Melissa? The darkness is challenging, but the dark days have definitely been most transformative in my life. Absolutely right. And what does AJ say here? It's all a big show. Don't take it seriously. Yeah, I think that the best way to bump up against the reveal of the darkness and the control drama. Look, I want to know what you all think of President Biden, pardoning his son for all his transgressions. To me, that just reveals exactly how corrupt the system is. Shared illusion. I mean, yeah. But I think that probably the best way to deal with it all, rather than going into judgment about, this person shouldn't have done that, and that person shouldn't do this, and this person should be this, and this person. I think the best way is like to go into curiousness. Like, I wonder why that is happening. I wonder what impact that's having on humanity, and what humanity on a global scale is learning from this incident. Like, when we look at war and we look at the atrocities of war, it's really hard to stay curious and not go into judgment, because when we see kids being blown up and legs and arms missing and families being torn apart, as humans, we go into this judgment. We say, these evil people, this shouldn't be right. Obviously, there's been a lot of war on the planet in the last year or so. And here in Sydney, in the Jewish community, there's been a lot of trauma. I've got a lot of Jewish friends. And at first they were the victims, and now they are the villains. And I find it absolutely amazing that people could judge you for the decisions that your government make. And I think of myself as an Australian. If my government makes really stupid decisions to do stuff, why would you judge me? It's not my choice, it's the government's choice. So why judge a person by what the government is choosing to do? But it's still, and the anti-Semitism here in Sydney has been huge. People blowing up people's cars and all sorts of things. I actually didn't know about it until I was talking to a friend the other day, and I said, but it hasn't affected us here in this, lovely place that we live in. She said, no, it has. So how do we bump up against this? What are you saying here, Susan? I've been deep in my own challenging healing process, Kundalini, and feel a bit detached from politics lately. Yeah, well, that's probably a good thing. But what I feel is happening, and this has been happening to me as well, I've been bipping along for about the past 10 years. My guide said to me that around 2012, is when all that karma that I came in to bump up against ceased to exist. And then I could just get on with doing what I do, being a teacher of deliberate creation and expanding consciousness in whatever way, shape or form I wanted to do it, putting on events, putting on podcast shows. And so I haven't had to deal too much with my own crap, because I dealt with a lot of it when I was young. Like, I did a lot of personal growth, a lot of meditation. I do it. But just lately, my own crap has been slapping me in the face. And I'm thinking, whoa, what? Right. Just when you think you haven't got any crap left in your subconscious programming, here it is again. So I asked my guides what's going on, and they said, yeah, we've kind of really ramped things up. Especially moving into this new year. Next year will be a challenging year for many, because it's going to be a great year of change. There's been, just like Neil said, there's going to be a lot of dismantling of systems and power structures, and that will create a lot of chaos and a lot of change for a lot of people, because there are many people that rely on these power structures. They have jobs, and they rely on these power structures for their livelihood. And so next year is going to be a great year of change. And also that change is affecting us in the way we relate to ourselves and others. And so this sort of like intensity of light, revealing what's still a part of your subconscious programming, is happening more intensely now than it ever has before, or during our lifetime anyway. And yeah, you are getting to see your own limiting ideas about yourself more intensely. And so, yeah, there is an emotional trauma happening. Again, can we look at it with curiosity instead of saying, oh, poor me, I'm feeling so upset, I don't feel good. Can we see what's happening and say, oh, so that still exists within me. How can I work with this? What's Kristen saying here? Okay, what are you saying here? War was purposely planned, though. Old paradigm. Yes, I agree. Victor, what are you saying here? It's dark, but it could be a lot darker, and I am grateful for what I have. Good on you, darling one. And what does Wellwood say here? What does it even mean to be in a simulation? That's a good question, Dave. Are we in the simulation, and or are we all of it, the simulation? That's a great question. Are we in the simulation, or are we of it? I think personally that we are in it, but we are the creators of it. So we are in it, but we are actively participating in keeping it going. And every time we go into judgment and we push against, we are strengthening the energy that is the foundation of the simulation or the matrix. So we are creating it and we're in it. We are participating in it. And as we participate in it, we are creating it, and so we're in it. What do you think about that? Kristen, what does Kristen say here? Yes, agree. Watch and do all I can to view from a global or higher perspective, and then look around what I can do and how I can serve in my own community. Yeah, right. I had a friend staying with me recently, and he lived in India, and he put on a business called Humanity in Business. And what he did was he went into the corporate world, and he put on seminars and events teaching spiritual principles, but in a very secular way, in a very mainstream way, to the corporate world, talking about kindness and, working together and non-judgment and all that sort of stuff. So kind of like a spiritual practice for the corporate world. But anyway, COVID shut him down, and he went back to India. So his desire was to serve humanity, and that's the way he came out of the corporate world. He wanted to, and then he realized he has an old mother at home. She's 95. He has a couple of brothers who are not very well. They're a lot older than him, and so he felt like maybe his service, when COVID shut down his business because he couldn't put on events anymore, maybe his service was in the home. So he went back to India, and he's looking after his family. He still has to work, obviously, to earn the money. He supports them. He supports his two brothers and his mother. His father died a while ago, and so his service was serving his family. And anyway, he came out here for another event. He's also working still in the corporate world, putting on AI events for business. So he came out and did a big event here and stayed with me for a week. But yeah, he really sees that his service is serving his family while they're still alive. I think Mum she's probably not long for this planet. If she's 95, she's doing well. But he's got 2 brothers. What does Desley say here? Taking the non-dualistic approach, know them and us, but buying into the stories. Oh, not buying into the stories, Desley. Yeah, I agree. Not buying into the stories. Sarah Jane, hello, darling one. Lol, I have no clue what's going on half the time. Good on you. I have no clue what's going on half the time. Oh, I love it. Love the change. Yeah. And Sarah Jane says, I feel the same way. I'm not keeping up with the oh, there's Moby. G'day, Moby. How are you? Wow, thank you for sharing what your guide said, Karen, because I'm feeling like I've taken 10 steps back lately, right, with all the shadow popping up suddenly. Yes, Moby, I know. I was cruising for about a decade, and then just lately it's like slapping me in the face, and I'm feeling things that I haven't felt for the longest time, like feeling emotional stuff and thinking, God, I remember when I felt like this all the time, feeling disempowered and feeling a bit victimized and thinking, God, these are some old wounds that I haven't experienced for the longest time. Just when you think that you're kind of getting enlightened, life shows up in a way that says, no, yeah, so ain't that right? Oh, there's Maria. Hi, Maria. Was Claire said, do you believe you're going to lose your job? Do you believe you're going to lose your job? I don't know who you're saying that to, but no, I work for myself, so I can't lose my job. Maria. Hey, Maria. It's the eye of the mentality. That's that I steer away from and remind myself of who I am. And that is someone who chooses to be kind anyway and kind always. Aww, you are a beautiful, kind person. Yeah, kindness. Choose kindness. Always choose kindness. It's not always easy to do, but it's definitely a challenge. Alison says, yes, Moby, me too. What's been going on with you, Alison? Tell me. Kay says, what job? Lol. Yeah. My job is talking to all you people. And yeah, what's my job? I don't know. My job is different, a bit like Neil. God, Neil's doing some amazing things. I've got a finger in a million different pies. And I'm a sole entrepreneur without a team. Neil and I were talking about that before. He's got all these things that he wants to do. And God, he's achieved so much as one person. God, he's got crazy energy, that man, I tell you. And I said, you need a team around you. So it was interesting when he was going through his past life, how he saw himself as the keeper of the portal or the guardian of the portal. And he was seeing himself singular. And then he asked himself, am I doing this all alone? And then the guide said, no, there's an army. I think we forget that we are, we're not this one singular person. That's the illusion of the experience we have on planet Earth, to believe that we're just one person alone in our own emotions, in our own feeling, doing it all by ourselves. It's the illusion of separation, feeling alone and lonely, and like we have to do everything ourselves. I have definitely, explored that avenue of experience big time. I'm all alone and I've got to do everything myself. But that's the illusion of the game, in the simulation, the illusion of separation. We're absolutely surrounded not only by spirit. I had Francis Ray Key on my show many times, who is the author, the channel of the team books. And in the team books, they say, you are not alone. You are never alone. In fact, you are not even operating as one person. You are a part of a team, a spiritual team that is as close to you as breathing. And yeah, I call very reverently my guides the mob, because they showed me, I was asking when I was young for some identity to show up. And they showed me that this big sort of mob of faceless, no identity sort of people, but they're not even a mob of people. They're a stream of consciousness that has been many identities on many different worlds and planets and in many different densities. But they're a stream of consciousness, which we all are. We're all a stream of consciousness that is experiencing identity and singularity and the illusion of aloneness and separation. And we are never alone. And so when we understand that we're never alone, both spiritually, we attract people around us to want to love us and help us and be a part of the team that we want to, whatever we want to fulfill. what's happening here. I think I put that up. I'm not much into politics, but one thing that trips me up is the health stuff. Alison says, the health stuff as it directly affects me. What do you mean by the health stuff? Are you talking about all the poisons in our food and stuff like that? I guess that I want to say something about this. I started this as an intention to be a healer. So when I was 23, I embarked on a 5-year full-time naturopathic course, finished that, decided I didn't see anything that was going to change the world, so I opened a furniture and homeware shop. I know, and nothing to do with health. Closed that 5 years later after I had a baby, and was massaging to make money for a living, and started seeing all this stuff, and people started reading people. Basically, my psychic abilities came online and I had to explore what was happening to me. So I started doing energy healing workshops. And, my idea of health back then compared to back to now is so different, because what I've seen, I have friends that just pour poison into their body, cigarettes, alcohol, drugs, like they never filter water, they don't buy anything organic, they're just pouring poison into their body, and they're old and they're still alive, and then they don't get sick. And it just amazes me how much poison the physical body can deal with. It has something to do with the spirit, I think, like the spirit. People say it's a strong constitution. My ex-husband's mother was one of the sickest people I ever met. She was this tiny little woman who chain smoked, and her kidneys shut down. She'd had every disease known to man, I think, starting from a very young age. And she used to survive on half a packet of cigarettes and half a cup of coffee and eat practically nothing. She was just this tiny, skinny little, and I marveled at how she was still alive. How are you alive? Logically, you should be dead. I mean, she eventually died, but just before she died, my ex-husband rang me and he said, Mum wants to talk to you to say goodbye. So I said goodbye to her, and I was having a chat to him, and I said, how's she going being in hospital knowing that she's dying? And he said, she keeps saying, oh my God, why am I still alive? Every morning she'd wake up, what does it take to die? I'm ready now to go. When am I going to die? She would say that every day for a few weeks before she died. Hilarious. Susan says, it feels like we're in a major choice point right now. Let me keep an eye on the time. Fork in the road. Yeah, what do you think we're choosing, Susan? What do you think we're choosing? We've been broken away from the old social traditions. Victor Black says, but many are still trying to live in the ghost of the old world. Absolutely. This is making people feel like they are failing. That's interesting. I wonder what you mean by that. But that is so true. Tradition. I had this beautiful Indian lady on the show years ago who's an incredible spiritual teacher. And she grew up in an Indian family, and they, they wanted to marry her off. There was an arranged marriage, and she was wearing the saris and everything. And it just didn't fit who she was and what she was here to do. And so she broke free from all that tradition and everything. And we talked about tradition, and we were laughing because we were saying tradition is trying to be controlled by dead people. It's like it's ideas and dogma and beliefs that were created many years ago, and then tradition says it just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. But does it serve us if we are evolving as a human planet to keep these traditions going? Does it serve us? It's sort of interesting. What do you guys think? Where are we? What are you saying here, Claire? Do you believe the way you currently make an income, which is 3D distortion, will cease to continue? Oh my God, Claire, that is such a great question. I have been thinking about that a lot. Yeah. I think it will continue. It will continue for a while, probably for the rest of my lifetime. But I think that as we move into a more enlightened society, the way that we make an income and use money will not. No, the 3D distortion will not cease to continue. It will. And the Bitcoin revolution, have you checked your Bitcoin lately, your cryptocurrencies? Things are going gangbusters. Will definitely change that as a form of exchange. will definitely change that. There are many people moving into community and using bartering systems and using a different form of exchange. But yeah, that's an old system that is well outdated, I think, the fiat 3D money system, and it comes with it a lot of distortion, the whole money system. I've tried for the most part to live outside the money system, but you can't. You need money. You've got to buy things, and you can actually attract money rather than make money. Just feeling that feeling of abundance, not relying on how much money you've got in your bank account, but feeling abundant and feeling grateful for all that you live, and you attract more abundance. But abundance comes in the form of, like, live in my house for nothing. Let me give you this. Let me buy you a ticket overseas. Let me do this for you. Let me do that for you. I think that the old paradigm is that, again, feeling separate and alone. We've got to make the money in order to do the things we want to do. But can we do the things we want to do without necessarily participating in the 3D money system, or the way of having an income to pay for the things that we want to do? It's a shift in perspective, isn't it? But feeling abundant. I thought about this hard, and I live like that for the most part. I kind of earn next to nothing, but I live an abundant life. But I think about gurus that emanate that energy of love and connection to source, and they don't necessarily set out to form businesses, but people just throw things. They just give them. They give them food, they give them money, they give them buildings. They just do anything for them because they so feel that remembrance of their own connection to source. And so I think that as humans, if we can participate in feeling that connection to love, and that connection to unity, and that connection to abundance, and that connection to unlimitedness and infinite possibility, then yeah, we can attract anything we want to do, be and do and participate in. What a great question. Yeah, so I think that eventually that old system will break down. I don't see it happening anytime soon. I think next year, I'm not someone that predicts. I just feel energy. I'm very terrible at predicting. Your elections, I said to my guides, who's going to win the election? And they said to me, why are you asking that question? Why don't you just enjoy the ride and get surprised at the end? Just wait for, it's like asking what's going to happen at the end of the movie before you see the movie. And I said, yeah, fair enough. So when I did predict from my own personal, not from their guidance, but from my own personal feeling about it, I thought that she would win and he wouldn't win because they wouldn't let him win. That was what I was thinking. And when I asked my guides, checked in, and again, I asked my guides, who's going to win the election? Because people kept asking me. They said, well, we're not going to tell you, but it will surprise you. And it did surprise me. It absolutely did surprise me. So I was surprised. What are you saying here, Moby? Moby says, yeah, I love you use mob, Karen. I once felt my spirit team so strongly and was surprised it felt like a crowd. Yeah, instead of one or two guys, mob equals truth. Yes, all of us have a crowd, all of us. I mean, think of our own soul. We are living all our lives simultaneously, as Neil and I were talking about today. We were talking before we went live, actually, about, I said, my guides have showed me that when we elect to have an earth experience, we do so from a soul's perspective. We design our life as the earth experience through all space and time in one go. Like we say, yep, I'm going to be female, male, female, male. I'm going to live in this time zone, that time zone, this experience, this country. Like we design it all in one go before we come. It's not a linear process where we die and then go back to spirit and think about what we're going to do next and come back. We design it all. And obviously, it's like a game with possibilities depending on choices that we make while we're incarnated in certain lifetimes, puts us on trajectories of different timelines that are all dovetailing together simultaneously. It's very confusing to think about. And the Seth books, Channeled Information in the 60s by a woman called Jane Roberts, a lot of the Seth book talks about how our past lives dovetail with each other. But yes, all of us are. So think about our soul and how many different identities we've been. I mean, and that's guiding us as well. Like it's a huge team of spiritual guidance. We've got angels, we've got dead relatives, we've got our own multidimensional soul. We've got, so many galactic consciousness, councils of galactic consciousness, streams of consciousness, all helping us as we live out our physical life experience. It's a mob, I tell you, it's a big team if we're to talk from that perspective. What's Alison saying here? Oh, I love your questions. We've only got 5 minutes to go. Yes, allergic to all the poisons and had respiratory arrest doing all that work, but hard to get well enough to move forward at the pace I would like to. Okay, Alison. Respiratory experience. I, as a kid, was an asthmatic. I'm pretty sure there's photographs of me as a baby on my grandfather's knee. There's this cute little blonde girl with a big ponytail on the top of her head, dressed in pretty little clothes. And I had this look on my face like, I don't want to be here. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. So as a kid, I was this asthmatic. And that is the energy of respiratory problems. It's like not breathing is saying, I don't want to be here. And when I grew up and started feeling appreciative for things instead of feeling traumatized, because I came from a very traumatic family, lots of violence, death, illness, all that stuff, all that good stuff. When I saw the appreciation for all of it, just like the conversation Neil and I have had on the show today, when I could see the appreciation for the darkness and the traumas that I'd lived, both in this life and all my other lives, and all the traumas my parents had lived and the traumas that my ancestors lived, when I could see the benefit of the contrast we experience, I could breathe more freely on planet Earth. And my asthma completely disappeared. Moving into gratitude and feeling like I'm free. I'm the creator of my own reality, that I don't have to suffer from my traumas or indeed anybody else's traumas or even the poisons in our food, that I can create my reality regardless of the circumstances that I'm experiencing inside the simulation, that I am the creator of the simulation and participating in it. And how do I want to participate in it? Can I breathe freely? That's what I'd like to say to you, Alison, and finding that appreciation for being here on Earth and how you're benefiting from it is really going to help you with your health problems. Appreciation is a healer. Isn't it just, Victor? Appreciation is a healer. And Claire says, go, Seth. Did you read the Seth books? I loved Seth. Loved the Seth books. They were fantastic. Gloria. Hello, Gloria. Great to see you online. The ACIM says, I'm not a victim of the world I see. Just tell me what ACIM stands for. I think I know. Just tell me again. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I actually am the creator of the world I see. I am the co-creator. I am participating in it and I am creating it. Yeah, so I'm not a victim of the world I see. And Moby says here, Alison, that sounds so hard. Praying for you. Thank you for being here on Earth. Oh, Moby, that's so sweet of you. Oh, you're going to make me cry. Oh, yes, of Course in Miracles. I knew it was that one. Thank you. Thank you. A Course in Miracles. I knew it was that one. I just couldn't remember. Thank you, Gloria. A Course in Miracles. Don't we love the Course in Miracles? Shirley says, Wellwood says, 100%. 100%. I think you're saying 100% is appreciation is the healer. Appreciation is the healer. What you appreciate, what you resist, what you appreciate will serve you. Thank you for that message. Yes, absolutely. I know there's a slight delay from when I say it to when you hear it because we're streaming on all these platforms. But this has been so much fun. I have loved this conversation. I just love talking with Neil. I love that you're talking maybe more frustrating than anything else. Well, Alison, we're sending you lots of love. We're seeing you as a free, empowered being, a creator of your reality, knowing that you can breathe freely here on Earth. Tell you what, who else? My brother was a really bad asthmatic, and then my other brother was had a lot of bronchial problems too. So we all came in with the breathing problems. But when I was young, not only did I have asthma as a kid all my life, but I was terribly allergic. I had terrible hay fever. So I had embarked on a full-time naturopathic course when I was like 23. I was living in a big house with a whole lot of film hippies. They're all working in the film industry, drinking and smoking and taking drugs. And he's the naturopathic student trying to be healthy. It was not easy amongst that environment. But I remember leaving my house one day to go out, and I had the realization that I had left my puffer at home. And I had a thought, oh my God, I've left my puffer at home. I went into complete terror and fear. What if I get an asthma attack and I haven't got my puffer? I'll have to go back and get it. So I had to trek back to the house to get my puffer. And I remember grabbing the puffer and thinking, I can't live like this. I don't want to be chained to this puffer, thinking I'm worried that I'll get an asthma attack. And then, if I don't have my puffer, I won't be able to breathe, and I'll be in a whole world of hell. And in that moment, I decided I didn't want to be an asthmatic anymore, and I stopped. I never had another asthma attack again. I held onto the puffers, I have to say, for quite a few years afterwards. They all went off. And it was probably about a decade before I decided to throw them all. They were all off anyway, but I never used them again. So the power of your decision, like when we decide and line up with that decision, we are powerful, powerful creators. Oh, we've got to go. Big love to you. I'm over time. I didn't look at the time. Big love to you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Love you all. I won't do the outro, and I will see you on the next show. Bye for now. Bye. Love you.